As you can see from there, we've got a fairly busy agenda today. So I would propose that we just crack straight on so that we've got as much time as possible for any discussion or questions that come out of these presentations. So first up, we've got the Dermatology Kaizen event update. So who is leading us off on that?
Hi, Tim.
Hiya.
Hiya. Hello, my name's Sophie Williams, KPO specialist and team lead for this event. So this is our Dermatology Despair medical dermatology pathway. So all about improving the medical dermatology pathway at Chapel Allerton. We had a 2.5-day Kaizen event this week to empower those doing the work every day in dermatology at Chapel Allerton to improve their work using the Leeds improvement method. This is, next slide, please. This is our project form that outlines the demand on the service, which has increased by 20% over the last year, and the demand outstrips the current capacity. So there are currently over 2,000 patients split between new and follow-ups, and the dermatology patients have complex, lifelong needs and require high-cost drugs and significant prescription management. The staff were reaching crisis point, and this Kaizen event was an opportunity to improve the flow and support improvements across both medical and general dermatology. Next slide, please. So this is our value stream map, which shows our lead time from the decision to treat in clinic through to the prescription being validated down in the home care hub. So this is 38 days altogether, with a huge waiting time of 33 days in between that decision to treat and the nurses being able to see them in the drug initiation clinic. Next slide, please. This is our targets set by the sponsors for the week and focused on reducing the wait time for our patients and looking at the burden of work for the staff and making a quality experience for our patients. That's what we're aiming to do. Next slide, please. Here's some quotes from staff and patients on how it feels or felt currently at Chapel Allerton. So there was a lot of duplication. The patients have waited a really long time. Some patients didn't know why they were here. Clinical nurse specialists were dissatisfied with the office space, which was minimal to do their telephone clinics. And the numbers are going up and up. It's exponential growth in dermatology. So something needed to change. Next slide, please. We did, over the 2 days, it was rapid, but we produced a lot of ideas were written down, and we did a future state map that we decided as a team how we wanted to change the service for the better and look at that quality service for our patients. Next slide, please. I'll now pass you over to the colleagues to talk to you about the PDSA. Next slide. Thank you.
Thank you. So, thank you. Inflammatory skin conditions such as psoriasis and eczema are very common conditions, and our available therapies do give us a realistic prospect of clearing these patients. But despite these advances, it takes on average 15 years for patients with, for instance, psoriasis to be seen in dermatology, and even then we take about 10 years moving such severe patients onto therapies. And as this slide illustrates, a major bottleneck for us in clinic in moving patients onto appropriate therapies is the patient education components. Now, in order to be able to use advanced therapies safely and without waste, we do need to ensure that they're appropriately used, but this education element is immensely time consuming and sometimes takes up to half of the clinic time. So there is an opportunity here to vastly increase clinic capacity, nearly doubling it, and to work more efficiently if this educational component is supplemented by well-designed virtual education modules, which is what we're proposing here. We can better meet our patients' needs, which are very broad and complex, and we can be more adaptable also to our patients' needs as their requirements change over time. Next slide, please. So what we are proposing is a collection of core educational modules in video format supplemented by written and interactive materials, enabling our patients starting advanced therapies or switching therapies to have access to consistent and also high quality information. This will then remove the need for such information to be repeated over and over again, as is currently the case, shortening need for face-to-face time and enabling us to get through larger patient volumes. Next slide. And by using resources, including Portisana, we can provide core video content currently provided face-to-face as a clinic outcome. So this means consistency across our patient population, and also importantly means that our patients have an auditable record of information received. These proposals we're making also scalable, and we as a team think could be broadly applicable across dermatology and also other areas within the trust and also beyond. Next slide, please. And longer term, all of this would provide us with a robust and very and also peer-reviewed set of resources, including videos, written, interactive materials for our patients that they can engage with as required, and that they can be referred to by us based on their current needs. And this in turn will hugely reduce the time needed on our part. Great amount of doctor-nurse time is taken now repeating similar information, and we believe our proposals and this video project will hugely improve the patient flow in our department. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Nicola. I'm a lead clinical nurse specialist within the dermatology department. I am also a process owner for this Kaizen event. We work together on a PDSA to reduce the backlog of follow-up patients requiring dermatology review. Hopes and wishes from engaging in the Kaizen event were to secure a dedicated clinical nurse specialist work environment. Currently, we are scattered hot desking throughout the department and can spend quite some time looking for each other throughout the day. The provision of a dedicated environment would create space for the biologics CNS team to work collaboratively and more effectively. By doing so, it is predicted that the provision of the right work environment will increase capacity that we can offer in terms of telephone reviews for our more stable patients. It is anticipated that we will increase capacity by 117 telephone appointments per week, which is quite impressive. I'll hand you over now to my colleague, Janine.
Hi everyone, my name is Janine. I'm the business manager for dermatology. Next slide, please. As a result of our demand on the current biologics team, the admin person, which is currently only one individual, is having to be supported by our band 6 and 7 CNS team. So due to recent wider changes within the wider Chapel Allerton CSU admin teams, we've identified that resource is available with our current dermatology team, and we've agreed to move people around, which will release our CNSs to do some additional clinics. This increased capacity will allow us to see more patients, ultimately improving the patient experience, whilst also increasing the staff morale by putting the right people in the right roles. We're also holding currently a weekly huddle, which is held on a Friday morning. And as part of the event, we've now developed an agenda and a production board where we plan to track all the changes and the actions that have arisen from the event. The huddle board will also include items which we were not able to discuss at the event but are now being held on our car park. I'll now hand over to Jo, who will talk about our next PD essay.
Hi, my name is Jo and I'm the Advanced Clinical Pharmacist for Dermatology and I'm a process owner for this KPO. Due to the delays in transcribing clinic letters and an inefficient patient pathway, it's taken 38 days from a decision to treat to a prescription for the new treatment being validated by a pharmacist. Some of the delays are coming from the need to clarify treatment plans with clinicians or chasing outstanding investigations. Introduction of a drug initiation record creates a clear plan for the CNS team. It standardises the pathway for drug initiation across the general and medical dermatology clinics. Ideally, this form will become embedded in PPM and will be completed by the clinician in the last 15 minutes of clinic during dedicated clinic admin time. For this proof of concept, whilst we're awaiting PPN engagement, a Word document will need to be uploaded by the clinicians. The hope is that this will reduce the delays for patients waiting to initiate treatment, as all the relevant clinical information will be immediately available following that initial clinic attendance. So thus reducing any time spent by the CNS team hunting down information in PPM or chasing clinicians around the department. It should be noted that this will add an additional burden to the medical team whilst we're waiting for PPM plus form. But I'd now like to pass you on to Laura for the next slide.
Thank you, Jo. Well, hello, my name is Laura Savage and I am a consultant dermatologist, and the PDSA that I like to discuss is about the use of Portasana to eliminate waste and be more lean in our processing. We would really like to develop a pre-new patient appointment questionnaire, which would start off to the patient with a question simply saying, do you still require your appointment? Because our patients are currently waiting around 60 weeks for their initial appointment. Many patients, when they turn up, are not entirely certain of the reason for their attendance or that they're even coming to dermatology. There are often lengthy GP referrals sent with no valuable information. I think the one last week was 100 pages long until we found one word that said psoriasis. So there's unnecessary time spent in clinic trying to identify the reason for the patient's attendance, and then also trying to clarify their past medical history, their current medications, and also what they've previously tried, which could be captured by the patient in their own time prior to coming to clinic. Kaveh has already touched on the patient therapy education pathways, and again, we'd like to use this through Portasana. Again, as we've said, there are high-cost drugs that are very expensive, and there is a potential for patient harm if the patients are not adequately educated, as well as waste. We're currently spending 45 minutes per patient counselling these patients for advanced therapies, and therefore there are long waiting times due to limited capacity. There's also no standardisation, and we worry about the medical legal concerns as well, because there's no documented acknowledgement that the patients have been provided all the necessary information. There's also no ability for the patients to revisit that information without having further healthcare practitioner contact time. And then the third use of using Portasana would be to move on to a PIFU model for our stable patients on immunomodulators. So our current clinical model is based on standard follow-up in X amount of months. It might be 3, 4, 6 or 12 months. It's a best guess. So as a consequence of that, we're not seeing the people who need to be seen when they need to be seen. And of course, we then have lengthy follow-up backlogs. We've got many patients on systemic and biologic therapies who are stable but still need to be seen for review and monitoring. And we propose moving this onto a full PIFU model. We've also got exponential growth of our high-cost drug patient numbers. You can see here the numbers from 2022 and the growth to 2024. And then over the past 6 months, we've grown by a further 500 patients, and we expect to overtake the rheumatology capacity in the next 2 to 3 years. But of course, there are quite disparate resources currently available to us. So I'll now hand on to Phil to talk to this in a little bit more detail.
Thanks, Laura. My name is Phil. Laura's one of the dermatologists in the department as well. Next slide, please. So the next slide really just builds on what Laura's talked about. So I'd draw your attention to that top half of the slide, the yellowy orange. So this is the new patient pathway whereby we can glean the information in an efficient way to really sort of focus the consultation and make it as efficient as possible, and then signposting to patient education. Where we're also quite excited to implement the Portasana is through the follow-up pathway. So in advance of their scheduled appointment, the patient would complete the relevant questionnaires, patient-reported outcome measures, and highlight any concerns or questions that they might have. And this will be done in the sort of 2 to 4 week prior to their appointment. And the idea being that then using that information, we can then identify red flags, or we can allocate them according to their clinical needs. So if they're doing well, we can put them onto that PIFU. This is now looking at the bottom half of the screen on the blue. So if they're doing well on that PIFU pathway, if it's a minor question around planned activities or how do I manage the medication, it may be that we can allocate them to a phone appointment, and we know that that increases our efficiency in clinics such that we can see a greater number of patients and allocate the time accordingly. And then if there's more of an issue that needs time that the patient will need to attend, we can then get them to the face-to-face appointment. So it's really trying to tailor the appointment to the patient's needs and the needs of the clinician as well. And I will move you on there to the next slide, please. Is that back to Sophie now?
So yeah, that's me. Thank you. So because of the long lead time, we were unable to remeasure, or there was not much change to our final metrics. However, we did look at some cost savings that would be we would get out of aligning appropriate skill sets to tasks, and some carbon savings that we could get as well for our sustainability 7 commitments by moving to follow up patients having telephone appointments. Next slide, please. Nicola.
I think that's back to me. So I think what we had this, no, that's fine. So we're very grateful to the Trust for allowing us the time and space this week to innovate. Many of the things we've discussed have been on our agenda for some time, and we've been trying for 6 or 7 years to implement some of these changes without the ability and the time and the resource to bring these to the fore. We already knew where the bottlenecks were. We just really needed that time, but also the resource to get our heads together and to be able to act. We need to start appreciating all the hidden work that is being done by our admin teams, our nursing colleagues, and also by the medical team, and then making it visible via the production board and also in clinic templates so that we can share the burden of work where the best skill sets lie. And of course, we are then going to continue and follow up on this. We're not just going to do this as a one-stop shop. We would like some further follow-up time out to ensure that these measures are going in the right direction for our patients. Over to Nicola, I think.
Hi. And what were some of our barriers and challenges? Well, we have access to IT support and infrastructure at the top there, limitations to physical estate and office space, and the growth of the service over the last 2 years. Also, the peripheral site and that dermatology is not always seen as a priority. Next slide, please. And then we have a slide here showing some of us that attended, especially down at the bottom. Keith's contribution of Barry the Slug Pig when we were asked to do some, which caused an immense amount of pleasure throughout the 2.5 days. But more importantly, we would still like to thank the home teams and our patients, especially to Sophie. She's been a fantastic team leader and has inspired us all. I think we've got an awful lot of momentum, and we've been given lots of food for thought, and we're very much inspired to take things forward. Thank you.
Great work. Thank you. Thank you all ever so much for taking the time to fill us in on that. I think I'm not going to open us up to questions now. If we get a chance at the end, we will. But I think we're slightly overrunning, so we will move on fairly swiftly. But I would just say thank you for doing it. About what's the best pathway for our patients, and that's something that we really need to try collectively as an organisation to ensure that we give people that time to think about what's the best way to treat our patients. This work is so important because there are so many people who will be affected by this, and if we could improve the timeliness of care to our patients, that is a thing that they really value. So thank you all for the update. So we'll move straight on now to Annie. Are you with us for the Radiopharmacy Validations work?
Hello, hi, good morning. Yes, I'm here. My name is Annie. I work in radiopharmacy, which is part of the MMPS. My project is about streamlining the annual validations that we have to perform in radiopharmacy. So if I can have the next slide, please. So our validations are essentially experiments that we have to perform for every one of our key tasks, like processes, cleaning, training, everything that you can think of has to be validated using these validations, or like experiments. The problem with them is that we have now well over 25 different validations, and the staff feedback that I collected over a long period of time, to be fair, suggested that they weren't spread throughout the year properly, and staff were concerned that some months we were very, very busy and other months we had not a lot to do. So I decided to focus on this for one of the 7 LTHD commitments, You Say We Listen approach. So next slide, please. So my aim was to spread these validations more evenly throughout the year. The main goal was to improve staff satisfaction, and then as a result of that, improving compliance and reducing errors, but also reducing resources, time, all sorts. Next slide, please. So some of the feedback I collected to begin with, we don't understand why it's how it's possible that we're so busy some months and hardly anything to do other months. The schedule isn't working. Next slide, please. So this is just what it looks like before. No rhyme or reason to it, just a little bit random, to be fair. And I will go into a little bit more details as to what the colors mean. And I'm not going to go into any details of what the actual validations are, because I think that's beyond the scope of this. Next slide, please. So to begin with, this is kind of what it looks like. So I was able to collect some data for how long each validation took, and so plot it against how long we were spending each month on all the validations. So we spent between 4 hours in July and 18 hours in April and October. That's a really big difference. Next slide, please. So how did I gather this data? Lots of different ways. So I've mentioned staff feedback before. I did some Gemba walks, but they're not always possible because of our work in clean room. So it wasn't possible for me to go and shadow every single validation all the time. And then we keep logs, and a lot of them detail exactly how long each task took, down to minutes. Very, very accurate. And then also other visual control, analyzing all the data overall. So loads of different data gathering. Next slide, please. So then I was able to divide up the data that I gathered between preparation time, so all the time that it took to prepare, say, documentation, gather the supplies, that sort of stuff, and the performance time, so the time each operator was actually spending doing each exercise, and then the processing time, which is documentation again, sending of samples away to other places for testing, so all the time that you spend afterwards. These definitions were the limit of my Gemba walks as well. So next slide, please. So then I used that data that I collected to stratify each exercise, each validation into low, medium, and high effort, so that I could use this data to spread the validations throughout the year. And I defined effort as the amount of time and the amount of effort required by each staff member to perform each validation. Next slide, please. So this is just overall the data that I collected, the time, and when it was stratified. So mostly moderate effort, a few high effort validations. Next slide, please. There were some limitations. I couldn't personally time each validation, so not an exact science necessarily every single time. I was limited. Obviously, in order to spread them throughout the year, I had to move some validations, but I was limited because it have to happen within certain time frames. So for example, every 3 months, every 6 months, and I didn't want to disrupt the schedule too much. And also some validations are variable depending on when things are required or when we have certain pieces of equipment around. Next slide, please. So this is what it looks like before. I think you can see it makes a little bit more sense. Things follow more of a logic. You can see it even better in the next slide. Can I have? Yeah, thank you. So again, like at the beginning, this is plotting how long we spent each month on validations. And you can see that now it spans between 5 hours and 15 hours. Still a big gap, but it's less up and down. I think the differences between the months are less pronounced now. So next slide, please. So this is where you can really see it. So you can see that it's obviously not flat, so it's not equal every month, but it's a little bit more bearable for everyone. So yeah, next slide, please. I did collect feedback at the end. Obviously, we haven't, we're only halfway through 2025, but we have implemented the new schedule already. But so far, the staff are happy. It feels like our department are able to cope with the schedule much better. So it is working a lot better already. Next slide, please. Yeah, I was really proud that the staff were able to contribute and share their opinions. I was really happy that everybody felt they could come to me with their ideas and concerns. We are a very small department, so that means a lot to me. Next slide, please. What I'm going to do next is continue to each individual validation method. So each method has to be revised, and it will be in pretty much the same way, but 25 times over. So more of the same, data gathering, Gemba walks, just to review each individual document to make sure that we are utilizing all our resources appropriately. We're not wasting time. We're not wasting resources. We're working efficiently. Next slide, please. Oh, that was it. So yeah, so I was really happy with how it went overall. I think there were limitations, but I think it made a good difference, a big difference in our department. Thank you.
Thank you, Annie. That's great work, and that thing of variable work time taken in tasks can really impact on people, and trying to flatten that out is really worthwhile, so that people don't feel that crushing pressure 1 month compared to others. So well done for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I am really conscious that we may have been slightly over ambitious in scheduling the updates for today, and I may have been particularly poor in chairing today. And we are at time now with two reports still to do. I think we're going to have to, just out of respect for everybody's schedules, call it a close for today. Susan, Lucy, Courtney, Nicola, could I ask you just to stay on for a second for me, and we'll talk about. Apologise for the fact that we've got to this position, but thank you to those who have come and presented today. Really great work, and it's really inspiring to hear about the work that's been done. And I think Rachel summed up some feedback for the dermatology colleagues as well there. But thank you all ever so much, and we'll call that close there.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.